Hey gamers. So I thought about this video for a while since I thought it would be really fun for me. But then I thought that just maybe it could possibly be of help to me for college. A written script and video essay about some of my processes for character design sounds mildly valuable. This video centers on my cast for my story Pillbug, first written in 2015 under the title The Bloody Cross and revamped in 2017 under Pillbug. Almost kind of. Pillbug itself now is a slice of life about three immortal beings named Desmond Kennedy, Genevieve Reeve, and Cynthia Kempt, who must hide in their everyday society peacefully. This quickly descends when their most human roommate Desmond has symptoms of sin catch up to him and throw him into psychological chaos and torture. It's very inspired by Shakespearean tragedy / catharsis such as Macbeth and maybe a bit of Romeo and Juliet, aka the only two Shakespeare plays I've read, along with motifs and elements of the Gothic-era literature, such as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It is a very mature story that includes suicide, self-harm, and a slew of mental / emotional troubles. I have done research and intend to do more. However, I hope this video will focus on the characters' designs and not the story itself, unless their designs are influenced by the story, which I currently cannot think of why that would be the case, but I'm sure we'll find out. Spoiler, when I finished writing the script, we will find out. That's also because the story and how it's progressed is a whole nother can of worms. The setting is 2014 and 2015. I am a young, impressionable child who is ignorant and thinks they're woke, but is actually so not, and makes stupid statements and mistakes because of that, aka 11. Out of the three characters, it wasn't the protagonist Desmond that came first, but actually it was Genevieve, his love interest, and Asthenius platonically. Genevieve was born from a wig. I got the idea for Genevieve from a wig I saw at Target in October, where all of the I got the idea for Genevieve from a wig I saw at Target in October, where all of the Halloween stuff is in. She is literally a Halloween baby. I drew something like the model from memory later that day and posted it onto the hottest art community app, Pagey World. I asked for name recommendations like an 11-year-old would, and a kind commenter gave me Genevieve. I've stuck with it ever since. Side note, I did draw the wig with orange bangs and streaks because I swear that was the color. 3 years ago, I uncovered the wig and used it for a basic-ass vampire outfit. And the wig is red. I do not know how I was so selectively colorblind, and I swear so much to myself that it was orange. It is a bright, distinguishable red. I'm just really glad I remembered it's orange, otherwise Genevieve would look really ugly. Anyway, Genevieve was first born as a slut. By that, I mean overly sexual and bordering on non-con on several occasions. First pass Genevieve is very gross, so I gave her a dark anime boyfriend. Through alliteration, I got Desmond the demon. At this point, he's considered a demon, I guess. Brilliant. I also think, I do not know where I had heard the name Desmond before, but I had to think about it, and I think it was from the Desmond the Moonbear meme. Thank you. Dude, I'm in script mode right now, and everything I'm saying is so as a matter of fact, I sound so professional. This is going to sound very stupid because it is. For the first pass of the story, the very first pass, it was heavily inspired by my childlike interpretation of Viva La Vida by Coldplay. We're off to a very rocky start. What I mean is my 11-year-old interpretation of Viva La Vida is the protagonist, Desmond in this case I suppose, goes off to fight some sort of monster and then he comes back as some sort of monster. I believe this is where the dark side concept comes in. Hooray. He kills some people, no big deal, and Genevieve just kind of pops in and is like, hey buddy, I'll help you out. Okay, so it was an autumn writing assignment in my 6th grade English class. Max word limit was 100 words. I barely made it. I no longer have the story, but it was supposed to be some weird Thanksgiving thing where Genevieve disguises herself as Desmond's sister Cordelia, so she can sneak to some royal dinner. Yes, Desmond has a sister named Cordelia, whom I have written and only betrayed a couple of times, but I completely forgot about her because she's no longer relevant to the modern story at all. I bring most of this up to say that the first pass designs were not historically accurate in the slightest, especially Genevieve. My excuse for her was that some otherworldly being helped turn into a vampire, so it came with a sweet outfit that was not from that time, I guess, which is really stupid. It's also just ugly. I left Desmond and Genevieve on the rack to dry for 2 more years. In 8th grade, I got, surprise, another autumn writing assignment. This one was extremely open-ended and had no page limit. 13-year-old me had a spark and brought back Desmond and Genevieve into a reimagined tale. Genevieve visits Desmond and his sister Cordelia for a few weeks in the form of a cat. One night, when Desmond is alone, Genevieve reveals her true form and offers him eternal life. Desmond is turned into a demon by, I cannot remember how. I want to say Genevieve did it, but then why would he not be a vampire? Now that I sat on the script, I believe that Genevieve just had a demon or evil spirit just lying in her pocket or something. You want eternal life? Here, bitch! Anyway, he's now partly evil, dark side guy. Then Genevieve runs away with him. He's 14 in this, by the way. He magically stops aging at 24. More yay. Also, low-key sus. At the very end, Cordelia visits an elder oracle who tells her a poem foreshadowing Desmond and Genevieve's future adventures. I mention this because this old lady becomes the basis for the character Asthenia, whom at this time is called Asthenia because it's a name I pulled out of my ass. So yeah, Asthenia is made. I still have this story. I can read it. I will for a future video if you want, or if you don't, because I want to. I am so glad I kept it. Keep your old stuff no matter how bad it is at that moment because you will regret it later. I have so many old examples of these designs from this interpretation of this story, but I deleted all of them because I was embarrassed and I didn't think it was good. I have so many unfinished videos that I had of these characters, and I so regret deleting them. It's... Their second designs come when I found Pillbug specifically, supposed to take place after the Bloody Cross as a sequel. Desmond edgy leather jacket, done. Genevieve's outfit is based off one shirt from the Vampire Pack in The Sims. Asthenia, I don't remember. I pull a lot of character design choices out of my ass and it just kind of works. I have a very magical ass. How many times I've said pull out of my ass in this episode, that just really shows my process of character design. Desmond's first hairstyle was very much based off of this Roblox hairstyle, so that's how the two long strands stayed for so long. This was supposed to be homage to his old design, which is pretty shitty homage. I believe this is also around the time where the quote-unquote dark side or whatever had what were supposed to be ram horns. The few fans I had nicknamed him Croissant King. Shout out to you guys, you're OGs. The two were supposed to switch, but were overall the same entity. This is stupid and confusing. Genevieve's hair remains practically the same, except now it looks like a hat. Asthenia's only goal with the hair is to cover up her third eye, so that's how I got away with something so ugly. Why am I so mean to only my past self? Tips for square hair, or like strands of hair that fall like squarely. Demon Slayer, that looks good. This, it does not. Annika looks good. This does not. So just be careful. Soon I started to come up with the basis of Lucy Sue's Dollhouse. The concept that the Pillbug cast are brought to awareness and Desmond isn't down for that shit. That's how I first came up with his alternate appearance. I wanted him to cut his hair for that symbolism of changing into a new person and moving on. This choice did stick, although now it's more for him actually taking care of himself. My memory around this time is kind of hazy. I believe their first appearances on the channel were Meet My Redemption, which is still public and I believe in my playlist titled The Elder Archives. I titled this video Meet My Redemption because before I tried creating episodes for a story called Home of the Banished. Not a bad title, by the way, 12-year-old me, which is basically bootleg The Devil's a Part-Timer. Great show, watch it by the way. I don't know what I was doing when I was writing the script, this was like 2015. Miss Editor, which is me, make a visual timeline because I'm getting very confused. The sequence of events at this time is very hazy for me, which is why I wrote it so poorly in this script. The design stayed the same for a while, only really advancing with my art style growth. Oh, I remember now! Genevieve had an alternate form where she got really depressed because in the original story, Desmond just kind of ups and leaves with his body is officially taken over. This was a thing for around a year or so, I want to say, before I realized this didn't make any sense for her species, which is just the normal vampire, and overthrew it. A little bit later, I know I had this epiphany in 8th grade math where I either finished my homework early like a good little student or I was procrastinating and I haven't changed it over the course of 3 years. I tested out different eye shapes and put it into my style. This was after I started drawing noses. Oh my goodness, they have noses now. I kind of kept cruising along until another epiphany happened that is most noticeable in my old animation Healthy Ego. I tried different face types and this is where the shape language was finally established. Genevieve's the round one, Desmond is the square one, and Asthenia is the triangular one. I just looked at the description of that video and I used to be like every young artist that I now strongly dislike. I also read the comments and I now want to cry. Everybody has given up on me. Why has the universe forsaken me? P.S. This is when Desmond had a Voldemort nose. P.S. This is when Desmond had a Voldemort nose that inspired the style of his nose bridge. And I believe this is around the time where I finally fixed his hairline. His bangs swept to the right while the top tuft swept to the left. I tried to justify this with a spiral-esque thing in the back in my head, but I couldn't keep it any longer. This also puts his part at the opposite of Genevieve's, which I like. I must like it so much that I subconsciously made the same decision with my other couple peers in Chibii. Now that I was finally understanding shape language, my art kept building from there. Lucy Sue's dollhouse gets closer to what it is today. Estenia's alternate design is soon established, though her name is still Estenia. Why? Her way of moving on from her past is showing her third eye, considered impolite and indecent to her species, which is a light offense compared to her betraying her entire species by pursuing her own selfish desires of having a family. Time goes on. Soon in January of 2019, I revamp an old AU idea into rules and how to break them, which in current day I'm now revamping again. This is mentioned because this is when Desmond and the previous Darkside concept are now split into two different identities. Desmond is Desmond, kept immortal by an evil spirit living inside of him. This evil spirit has its own consciousness and memory, nicknamed Nameless by myself. Very literal, very creative. Quite a bit before this, the horns are dropped. It was my 35 art style challenge that rocketed me into massive improvement. But specifically me trying to mimic Hexian style in the challenge, which I did not get exactly right because I used the doll as a reference, not as concept art. I'm sorry, my queen. But it was particularly that encouraged me to try a different variation of Desmond's face, which I ended up loving. The first pass encouraged me to push my faces towards more realistic proportions. I kept going with my shape language. Lucy got a sharper nose to fit me, so her old button nose was donated to Genevieve. Estenia finally becomes Astenia through autocorrect. Asthenia is a word that means weakness. She is named as such for an oxymoron. Asthenia has different hair for a while, but I tried to reconfigure it because I thought it looked too similar to Genevieve's. Now she has bangs inspired from Cindy Stone and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. It's a bit better for doing its job, covering her third eye. I'm not totally in love with it still, I might try a fusion of the two. Update, I did do this, it looks much better. I like the look of having her hair over her shoulder. Back to the shape language. Yay! I try to give Estenia an Athens-esque profile to suggest wisdom. Desmond's jacket starts to look like an actual jacket. Both of them. I just thought/think he looks good in leather, so I decided he thinks so too. Genevieve's previous top cannot be comprehended, therefore it is thrown out for a pink with camo. Her previous inappropriate personality and behavior is exchanged with spunk and being very openly romantic and lovey-dovey. She's adorable. I still wanted her to have a very open outfit because she's a very open person, if that makes sense. I want to make another video about that. This is why her alternate outfit for Lucy's dollhouse is also cropped up. Her hair has remained mostly the same, except I've become more consistent in where her orange streaks are, and it just actually looks like hair now. Soon enough, I decided to make Desmond's hair make even more sense because the two long danglies just look really ugly. They just become shorter, and his hair becomes more hair-like. This made his Pillbug look and his Lucy Sue's haircut look much more distinguishable from each other. Then I changed his Lucy Sue's pupil shape because I realized him and Nameless look too similar in black and white. For the Lucy Sue style, this made his pupils turn from squares to circles. I did not even mention this in my script, and I am so upset at myself for doing so. I didn't even mention their changes in body types. They all used to be very average. Genevieve was made to look sexy, so she had a typical hourglass with big old titties, blah blah blah. But I thought it would suit her personality more, and it would just suit her more if she was chunkier. I just really like making chunky lady characters because they make me feel good about myself, because I'm very chunky. Also, it just suits her more too. Also, because it complements Desmond. Desmond, I did not want him to be traditionally attractive. I don't want him to be perfect. Especially for what he goes through in Pillbug nowadays. For what happens in Pillbug now, my goal for Desmond was to make him as typically masculine as possible, but I didn't want him to be perfectly attractive. The goal is that he's very skinny, but he still has very broad shoulders, so he has a very exaggerated trophy shape. And very dull. Oh! I was recording. My friends caught me. Anyway, on top of this, Desmond is very tall, which really does suggest a lot of masculinity. So he just takes up a lot of space, which does act as an oxymoron for how he degrades throughout Pillbug. And it's also for his face, which is very long and square. Just basically, he's not bad looking, but there's some room for insecurity. I made a very masculine model so that I can tear it down. And Asthenia, I wanted her to be petite. She is a raven shifter. Asthenia's species is raven inspired, so I didn't want her to have boobs or junk. So she's flat-chested, she's petite. She's petite, and I wanted her to have an hourglass figure because her thing is with time, looking to the future, other related stuff like that, hourglass. And I think that's about it for character design. Because I have no self-control, I did scrape the story changes, but that can earn its own full-length video. I still consider myself only at the very least an experienced amateur, so maybe me sharing my tale can be used as a point of reference for your character designs. You just have to negotiate with the idea inside of your head. Logic and common sense have become very close friends with me, and we often have to confront idea and talk it out. So thank you very much for watching, thank you for your patience, and have a very lovely day.